You ever get the feeling your neighbor's only real joy in life is making sure nobody else is happy? Well, let me tell you about the time my queen of the neighborhood neighbor decided her life's mission was to ruin my little slice of peace out by the lake, all because of my boat. No joke. The morning I woke up to a $500 fine just for tying my own boat to my own dock, I thought it had to be a prank. But not to Brianna Whitaker, our HOA president. This was business as usual. For her, turning a weekend at my cabin into a legal headache was just another Monday. So here's how I went from lakefront bliss to starring in my own bizarre episode of Neighborhood Wars. I'm Trevor Simmons, 32, land reclamation specialist by trade, and honestly, all I ever wanted was a spot to decompress away from spreadsheets and soil samples. The cabin wasn't fancy, think vintage wood paneling and shag carpet from another era, but the real prize was this weathered dock stretching out into the bluest water you've ever seen. That dock was why I bought the place, you know what I mean. Every Friday, I'd drive out, coffee in hand, just to sit on the deck, watch the mist roll off the water, and listen to the ducks, thinking this is what all that work was for. One morning, right as the sun broke through the pines, I noticed something taped to my door. For a split second, I hoped maybe, just maybe, pizza delivery had found my address for once, but no big, fat official letterhead from Harmony Heights HOA. My heart sank as I read violation notice, unauthorized dock usage, and the part that really got me, a $500 fine for tying up my boat. Apparently my dock was now community property even though my deed said otherwise. Signed with all the flair of a presidential decree, Brianna Whitaker. Standing there, I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity. Then I got mad. I'd dealt with red tape at work, but this was personal. Someone trying to snatch my hard-earned sanctuary. I dug out my property. Deed ran my finger right over the words, dock structure built in 1978, 30 feet into Lake Harmony, part of my lot since day one. Still holding that paper, I heard the sharp click of heels outside. Sure enough, Brianna herself, dressed for a boardroom, striding toward me with her gold-lettered, perfect neighborhood standards binder, like she was leading a parade. She didn't waste a second. "You need to move that boat," she barked. "You're in violation of Section 12B. I held up my deed, pointed to the part about the dock, and for half a heartbeat she looked thrown. Then she was right back to her routine, flipping through her binder, telling me how the HOA had spent money on my dock, so it wasn't mine anymore. I just thanked her for the free maintenance, which about made her head explode. She left in a cloud of perfume, swearing I'd hear from the HOA soon. Here's where the story takes a turn. That night I called up Tina, a local journalist I'd met through work, sharp as a tack, always digging into HOA corruption. She listened, then said, "Trevor, you've just kicked the hornet's nest." Sure enough, her research backed me up. Dock was mine, no question. I wrote a polite but firm letter telling the HOA I wouldn't pay a bogus fine. 3 days later, I woke up and my boat was gone from the dock, just a sad speck bobbing out in the middle of the lake. At first, I figured the lines had snapped. But when I paddled out, I found the ropes had been sliced clean through. Not a fray in sight, somebody had cut them plain and simple. Anger doesn't begin to cover it. That wasn't just a message, that was sabotage. I got my boat repaired, but I also installed a GPS tracker inside. If they wanted to play games, I'd play smarter. I even called my old buddy Mike, who works security. He laughed, said, "Trevor, HOA tyrants like this always overplay their hand. Document everything and be patient." Didn't have to wait long. 2 nights later, my phone buzzed. Tracker said my boat was on the move again. I watched it trace a perfect line across the lake to the community pond, aka Brianna's kingdom. Next morning, there it was tied to a tree. No new damage, but a clear message: back off or else. But now I had proof, exact times, location, you name it. Tina was practically giddy. We sent another letter this time with the GPS data and filed a formal complaint for vandalism and harassment. Just as things were heating up, a wild card entered the picture. My neighbor Thomas, retired plumber, an all-around good guy, stopped by with a 6-pack. Turns out I wasn't Brianna's first target. He told me about the Martinez family who painted their door the wrong shade of blue and got fined into selling their cabin. Thomas's story added fuel to my fire. This wasn't about docks or boats, it was about standing up to a bully. Then came my favorite twist. After another round of threats from Brianna, Tina dug up public records and discovered that thanks to a little creative bookkeeping, the community pond, the jewel of Brianna's control, was actually for sale. Long story short, with Thomas's help and a well-timed loan, I bought the pond. Legally. Fully above board. And I had plans, big muddy cattle-size plans. We brought in a dozen cows, fenced off the pond, and converted the pristine reflection garden into a full-blown livestock operation. Neighbors came out in droves, half of them in stitches, the other half scandalized. Brianna showed up looking like she'd swallowed a lemon, demanding I give the pond back. "It's not your pond," I told her, waving the deed, "and these cows are my new business partners." The community went nuts. Local news crews showed up. Tina got her feature segment, and suddenly my mud pit was the hottest tourist spot in 3 counties. Kids laughed, parents snapped photos, and more than a few people dropped by just to say it's about time someone stood up to her. Of course, Brianna doubled down, organizing protests and firing off legal threats about destroying the neighborhood. None of it stuck. Turns out I'd followed every zoning rule and actually improved local wildlife habitats with a new wetland. And then the last domino fell. Tina, relentless as ever, uncovered receipts showing Brianna had been embezzling from the HOA spa trips, fancy dinners, even a business retreat that looked suspiciously like a vacation. When the truth hit the next board meeting, the vote to remove her was unanimous. The sense of relief in the room, let me tell you, you could feel it. People hugged, folks who'd barely spoken in years high-fived. Brianna, stripped of her title and dignity, became just another cautionary tale. As the dust settled, the cows kept munching, and the neighborhood found a new groove. The kids who once played by the sterile pond now learned about wetlands and wildlife. The new HOA board lowered dues, refunded bogus fines, and for once folks actually enjoyed living here. Tina turned my saga into a book, and even environmental groups started stopping by, praising our innovative conservation efforts. Go figure. Sometimes standing up to a bully means you end up with a little more mud and a lot more cows than you ever expected, but looking out over that lake, hearing the birds and cattle and the laughter of neighbors, finally at ease, I wouldn't trade it for anything. So let me throw it out to you. If you had to deal with a power-hungry HOA, how would you fight back? Share your stories, because trust me, mine's just one of many, and I have a feeling the wildest tales are still out there.